Hello everyone, George here, and it's actually been a few weeks since I've tackled this project, although my release schedule would tell you otherwise. But really, the last time we left off, I had just done some HTC Vive stuff, and I'm continuing with that. I've got everything set up, but what we're about to tackle next is the start of pretty much the core functionality for the game. The game manager, time, and well, the waypoints that are going to control the different animatronics and move them throughout the different areas. So right now what we're going to do, though, is tackle just time. That game has a start time and end time. I believe it's 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. And during that time, the hour increments slowly. And then eventually, if you get to 6 a.m., you win. So that's going to be all rolled into a game manager, which we're going to start creating now. So let's go ahead under scripts, right click, create new, C# script, and we'll call this game manager. Open that up. All right, so we know we're going to need a object that will hold this. So let's go ahead and create a game object, create empty, and call this game manager. Double click, any day, F2 then, game manager. Game manager is going to have the game manager component. So let's go ahead and add that now, save things off, go back in here, and here is our game manager class. So right now we're going to concentrate solely on having time, a start time and an end time, incrementing that time, and then of course also displaying that time on the screen. And the way we're going to do this, because this is a Vive game at the moment, is we are going to have it attached to one of the two different controllers, either the left or the right controller, probably the left at the moment because I'm right dominant. So the game manager is going to need, let's see, we need a start time. So let's do a public float start time, and we'll set that equal to 0.0f, and we need a public float end time, which we'll set to be 6.00f. Actually, thinking about it, these can probably be integers, but well, we'll see what happens. I also want a value. Actually, let's make this serializable because there's no reason. Serialized field, and let's do a float actual time, and let's do a float game time. Now let's make it an integer. So the idea here is that actual time is the real time that you're playing. Game time is the... I had an idea for why I would do this, but now I'm not quite so sure. So we have start time and end time. Start time is the value we're going to show at the beginning. End time is the value we're going to show when we're done. Then, of course, we're also going to want to... We're going to have another variable called public float, and this is going to be level duration. Now, level duration is how long you're in that level. So the idea is that whatever amount of hours you stipulated the game time to run, level duration is going to be the actual time in reality that has passed for that. And actually, because of that, we're going to make a few small changes. We're going to do ints here. Int start time, int end time. So these are the two time frames that we're going to play our game between, and then our level duration is how many minutes of play time per level. Of course, 0 is going to end up turning into 12 when we get there, but we're not quite there yet. So we're going to want to continually update our actual time, and actual time is here because we need to know how much real life time has passed. Game time is the actual time we're at inside of the game, although this really isn't necessary now that I think about it, because I can always just convert actual time into game time by using my start time and my end time right here, as well as my level duration over there. Int, I have these as ints, so let's do this. So the next step is I want to output that time. I'm going to do that with a new game object create empty, and this is just going to be called time graphic. So time graphic is going to need a component, and it's going to want a text. Let's see. Actually, let's go to game object, 3D object. Let's create 3D text really quick. So that just has a text mesh component attached to it. So let's do that here, text mesh component. Go ahead and delete that old one. So we have time graphic, time graphics text. Let's just put as default at the moment so I know I can see it on the screen. Frame up, zoom in on it. There it is right there. Now, I'm going to probably want to change things. Let's do middle center and center right there. That way the text is in that center area. We're also going to want to change the size of it. Right now it's very low resolution. Let's go to character size and change this to 50. And let's change our font size. I'm sorry, I got that reversed. Font size is what I want. Font size is how many pixels in the font that I have per character. Let's just do 50 for now. And character size, we're going to want to be relatively small. Frame on up. That's still probably too large, so let's go ahead and make that a little bit smaller, 0.05. There we are. Now this object is going to get connected to the controller, the Vive controller that we have. So let's find that really quick. It's going to go under our cameraman. No. So under our camera manager, camera system, we have our left and our right. We're going to grab the time graphic and place it on the left for the moment. This will probably end up being changed in the future. The idea is, let's see here. Well, we're going to find out. I'm not sure if this needs to go under this component or the model component yet. We'll find out. Anyway, the time graphic is probably going to end up getting generated in code instead of being an object here. We'll see what I end up doing. But the time graphic is going to be attached to that controller, and it's going to update as time goes on, so you just look at your controller to see what's going on. I might also need to rotate this thing around a bit to make this work as well. So let's reset the default values right there. And now that that's actually parented to that object, let's go ahead in VR and take a look at it and make sure everything's working properly. So let's hit play, and let me grab the headset. Let's grab the controllers and turn them on. Controllers have been found. I lost one. There we are, and we can see that default text right there. It's huge, way too large. It's also oriented improperly. So we're going to want to rotate the orientation 90 degrees so that it's facing upwards by default. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And reduce the size, obviously. So let's go ahead and do that. Time graphic. So time graphic itself, let's rotate this 90 degrees. Let's do here, and 90 degrees going that way. There we are. Size. We can do this either in the character size or we can do it on the actual scale value. Let's change it to 0.01. Save things, hit run, and take a look at what it's going to do. And that's far better. Size is still a bit extreme probably, but it works. So now we're going to hook this thing up so we can actually set the time as things go along. So let's stop that. Come on back in, go to our script, and let's see. So in start, nothing yet we need to really deal with. Update, we do need to deal with some things. So we want to get the game's time. Now, I've been thinking about it, and the reality is, if I remember correctly, if we want to pause the game, relying on time.delta time is a bad thing to do. I should actually be creating my own time, my game time class. We're probably going to do that in a future video once I get along, into that. But for right now, we're just going to keep using time.delta time. First thing we want to do is do an actual First thing we want to do is actual time plus equals time.delta time. Next up, now that we've incremented the actual time of the game so far, we're also going to want to calculate what the real game time is. So that's going to end up being the actual time of the game divided by the duration of the level first. So let's do float game time is equal to actual time divided by level duration. This is going to put game time as a value between 0 and 1 at the moment. We actually don't want that. What we want is a value between the start time and the end time. Therefore, we should be subtracting the end time from the start time, which will give us the total amount of time that this should actually take. Let's do that really quick. Times the difference, so end time minus start time. Okay. So this is going to give us a float value. We actually want this to be an integer value, and we're going to want to probably truncate it. So I should be able to simply cast this over as an integer, and we're pretty much done at that point. So let's just do int truncated time value is going to be equal to game time, and we'll just do a cast to an int. There we are. Next up, we just need to associate the time graphic. Now, at the moment, we're just going to make a public field to do that. We'll do public. Actually, I'm going to put this up at the top because that makes more sense to me. Public text, what is it, 3D, not texture, 3D, what is it called? Let's go back into Unity, text mesh, that's what we want. Let's do a public text mesh, text. Go back over here now, find the game manager, see if this has any errors, it doesn't, and let's grab the time graphic, put it right there under the texture. Come back in here and let's go ahead and set that value. So we're going to do text.text is equal to the truncated time value, dot toString. Okay, so during update, it's going to continually update this field and replace its value with whatever the actual time is. So let's go ahead and see it work. Any errors? No errors, clear, hit run. So I did make a mistake. Okay, let's stop this for a second. So I don't know if you saw it, but I saw my mistake. So remember that we're dealing with seconds when we're talking about the time.delta time. What we're dealing with level duration is minutes, however. Therefore, whenever we do this comparison or working with it, we actually need to convert from the seconds to minutes. And that is going to be another division by 60 seconds in a minute, so therefore 60. So what we can do is take the level duration, though, and multiply that by 60. And just because, not that it matters, but we're going to put a parenthesis in there just because that's the way I like things. So now level duration is 5 times 60, which is going to end up being, what's that, 300 seconds. The actual time gets divided by that, and we should end up seeing that at the end of everything. Let's go ahead now and run this. Whoa. Okay, so we've got our Vive controller now, and the Vive controller shows a value of 0 as expected, and in a minute we should actually get a value of 1. Let's put the controller down at the moment, and let's see what happens. I'm going to want to offset this from the controller slightly because it is kind of inside of it, see, right there? And while it does get rendered on top of everything, it's still kind of not fun. All right, how much longer? There we go, so we've hit 1, which is 1 a.m. So let's go ahead and make this a little bit prettier as well and make it look like something interesting. Let's stop the game, come back over here. In here, what we can do before we write this thing out is we can do an if check. And if truncated time value is equal to 0, we're going to have it spit out a value of 12 instead. Control C, Control V is just going to be equal to, let's see, 12 : AM. Else, we're going to do the following. We'll have it spit out the truncated time value, converted over to a string, plus we want the, let's see, :00, and we might want to put a 1 at the front of this as well, a 0, just to make it all kind of follow suit. And then 00 and AM save. Okay, let's go back into the game as well, find the time graphic, frame up on it, and let's see, since it's being rotated, I want to move it forward slightly in the z-axis. That should be perfect. And let's hit run and see what it looks like now. There we are, there's one controller, there's the other one. Hey, check it out. So now the controller says 12 a.m. Way too large now, probably going to reduce the size of that one, that's for sure. Way too big. So let's wait a minute and see what happens. Actually, in hindsight, having the 1 in the front just looks wrong, so we're going to get rid of that. Okay, let's get rid of the 0. And make it a little bit smaller. So time graphic 0.05. Whoops. Not what I want. There we are. Much better. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is, now that we've done that little time graphic, what I want to do now is do the same thing on the controller, but set up the power for the system as well. So the power in Five Nights at Freddy's is with a little battery indicator, so we're going to have to create all that stuff. So actually, you know what? We're going to do that in the next video. All right, so I'll see you then. Bye.